Malaysian 370, contact Ho Chi Minh 120.9. Good night.
Good night, Malaysian 370.
Breaking news tonight, a Malaysia Airlines flight with 239 people on board, including 4 Americans, has gone missing.
From the Hindu scripture, the Bhagavad Gita. Vishnu is trying to persuade the prince that he should do his duty, and to impress him takes on his multi-armed form and says, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds."
What up, everybody? Welcome to the live stream. Thank you for being here. Thank you for waiting on this delayed live stream. I'm your host, Ashton Forbes. And here you are tonight, guys, Wednesday night live stream. I actually wasn't planning on doing a live stream, had a lot of stuff going on, but I said, you know who I love the most? I love my audience. I love my followers. I love everybody out there who loves talking about 0-point energy. Free energy is so hot right now, guys. Everybody's talking about it. All the cool kids are talking about it. All the podcasters talking about cold fusion. It's awesome. But the question is, where does it come from? Who are the people that are gatekeeping it? Who are the people that researched it? And when you dig into this 0-point energy technology, you find out it really does go back to a very small number of people. You can really name them. And if we assume there is some advanced technology out there that the government has, and you say, okay, well, who would the people be then that are gatekeeping this knowledge if there is this technology out there? It's actually pretty easy to narrow down the list of suspects. And right at the top of the list is a man named Hal Puthoff. Hal Puthoff, who's worked with the CIA. Hal Puthoff worked at the Stanford Research Institute, worked on remote viewing, like a bunch of spooky stuff, got involved in UFOs, oddly in the 80s, just got involved with UFOs out of nowhere. And also then wrote like a dozen scientific papers on 0-point energy. So let me pull up these real quick. So let me switch my view. I want you guys to see this because I'm as sure that this man, Hal Puthoff, is the prime gatekeeper of 0-point energy technology as I am that Edward C. Lynn leaked the MH370 videos. The Hoff, that's a pretty good name for him, chat. That's a pretty good name. The man is a legend. Look at how old he is. 88 years old. Pretty sure he's got the anti-aging serums going on or whatever, because if I look at this good at 88 years old, then I probably got the 0-point energy technology going on myself. Let's just call it like we see it, chat. We have the change. Thank you, brother. Thank you for being here. Appreciate you. Okay. His scientific papers. First of all, when you Google his papers, the first one that comes up is ultra-terrestrial models. He's talking about ultra-terrestrials like aliens, but like from here. Engineering the 0-point field and polarizable vacuum. I mean, this is just what we get when we Google his papers. And when you go to his papers, you see that his papers go back, like, look at this. Quantum ground states as equilibrium. Remember, chat, on Monday, we were talking about ground states. If you did not watch Monday's live stream, you have homework to do. You need to go back. It's very important to understand hydrogen atoms and electrons and what they are, and why the ground state matters in an equilibrium, because we can rip something out of equilibrium. Hal Puthoff's been writing about it. He's been writing scientific papers about it since 1987. One of the first things I did was research Hal Puthoff when I started suspecting that he might be involved in all this. And when I got to his scientific papers, you could just tell right away. I mean, look at what we're looking at here. 0 point energy, like other things that are basically like just 0 point energy, different, like rephrased. And he goes all the way back till 1987. Just quick shout out. Gravity is a 0 point fluctuation force. Says that we can explain gravity. Gravity is explained as the pressure force of different densities of 0 point energy, also known as mass as well. Mass is energy. And then 1987, there it is, the one I was talking about on Monday, ground state of the hydrogen atom as a 0 point fluctuation determined state. What that scientific paper is saying by Hal Puthoff, this is the very first one. And then before that, it was like remote viewing, 1981. So he's talking about remote viewing in 1981 and ESP and all this stuff. Look at all this. And then just straight out of nowhere, 180-degree turn. And in 1987, from that point forward for the rest of his life, Hal Puthoff became the #1 expert in the world. And when I say expert, you're actually the fucking expert. Hal Puthoff is the #1 expert in the world on 0 point energy, period. Hal Puthoff does not go on Joe Rogan. He's been asked. He does not go on Joe Rogan. Imagine that. Imagine the type of person that's the expert on 0 point energy that doesn't give a shit about going on Joe Rogan. Not just doesn't give a shit, like turns it down. Okay? A guy that said that he would never testify to Congress and he will take the secrets to his grave. This is the man that we're looking for. This is the man that we need to explain how there is some magical orbs flying around teleporting airplanes. Okay? So what are we going to talk about today? Well, we're going to talk about Hal fucking Puthoff. That's what we're going to talk about today. And you know what? I'm not even going to do that much talking. No, I probably will. But I have so many videos of Hal Puthoff that I'm basically just going to play them out and let him do the talking. And I'm going to let you come to your conclusion based on the shit that Hal Puthoff has just said publicly. Because the thing that I love most about this investigation, this job, if you want to call it a job, which I think it probably will become one, is collecting the clips of all these guys. Because when you're a journalist, when you're an actual investigative journalist, what you want to do is you want to get people's opinions on the record. And a lot of these guys do podcasts and they say those opinions on the record. And we can use that. We can use that as evidence, collect information on it. Okay, so just to be 100% clear, Hal Puthoff knows that we got some orbs. He knows we can teleport airplanes, and he probably knows what we did to MH370. I wouldn't surprise me, whatever Majestic 12, whatever the Smoky Man shit is that controls the world, it would not surprise me if Hal Puthoff is in the room when the Majestic 12 people meet. And I have a clip for that too. In fact, I'm just going to start playing clips. You know what? I'm just going to start playing clips right now. The first one that I like, that I wanted to play, I think Deep State, Plasma, Puthoff. Okay, here it is. The very first one. Wait, what? One sec, chat. For some reason it said invalid file type. Oh man. Okay, well, I'm gonna try to find this clip or another way to play it, but there's a clip where Puthoff was invited to like Washington, and the whole point. Oh yeah, okay, I have it here. I gotta convert this. Okay, I'm gonna convert this, and I'm just gonna tell you what it says. So, Hal Puthoff gets invited to Washington, and the point of the invitation is basically just to decide whether or not the world is ready for disclosure, whether or not we can handle disclosure. It's like, wait, what? That is the most smoky man in the room shit I've ever heard in my fucking life. You get invited to DC to be the one who's going to decide whether or not we're worthy of disclosure right now. And they literally just make a list and just number the list, like what, like the value, the things, the factors they think that should weigh into disclosure, and then the positives or negatives effects on humanity. And then they rate them in terms of severity, like -10 to +10. And then they add all those numbers up. And if the end result is a positive, then they will give us disclosure. And if the end result is negative, then no disclosure. If you think I'm kidding you, if you think that this is too insane, that this is too much like some Squid Game shit, that would be like, there's no way that can really be how it's happening, just wait until this video converts right now. I'm literally begging for this video finish converting so you can hear it from Hal Puthoff's mouth directly. What kind of person is on a soul conference when he's looking about, because I'm looking at my second video here, looks at least he's like 87. This must have been from like last year. He's like, yeah, I was just invited out to determine whether or not we're going to know about free energy and aliens. And well, I'm going to keep no spoilers in the chat. I don't want you guys to hear what the answer was just yet. Okay, I think it's ready. Okay, here we go. We're downloading. Okay, chat. Game time. Oops, wait. Dude, StreamYard changed? Huh.
Now, along the way, something that came across my path in this was that I was contacted by a CEO of a think tank in Washington, D.C.
CEO of a think tank in Washington, D.C. What the fuck is the CEO of a think tank? That right there is just some straight up spook level shit. I was contacted by the CEO of a think tank in Washington, D.C. Said, hey, bro, can you just fly out to D.C.? We're going to decide if disclosure is going to happen this weekend. I was just seeing if you could come out. We know you're one of the MJ-12 or whatever spooky shit's going on.
This is back a couple of decades ago. He says, I want you to come and participate in a conference here in Washington. I said, well, frankly, I'm too busy. What's it about? He says, I can't tell you what it's about. But if you come and you participate, you will consider it later to be one of the most important conferences you ever went to. Well,
what? It will be one of the most important conferences you've ever been a part of. Bro, how did this not get more attention? People just ignore this. Like, how do people not realize this man right here is the godfather, final boss of UFO disclosure?
Since I have respect for him and his background,
talking about it.
Many things he's done, I did finally decide to come to this conference. And when I arrived, there were about, 15, 20 people. I recognized
15 or 20 people. 15 or 20 people are deciding whether or not we're going to get UFO disclosure, aliens, free energy, whatever the shit you want, teleportation. 15 or 20 people get invited to Washington, told this is going to be the most important thing ever. Come roll up. You guys are just going to casually decide whether or not humanity is worthy of free energy.
The military, from CIA, DIA.
Military, CIA, DIA. DIA is Defense Intelligence Agency. CIA, you know these acronyms. These are the people, of the 15 or 20 people that are there. Chat. Sometimes in this world, I think I'm taking crazy pills because we're on the first video of Hal Puthoff right now. And I'm already like, haven't I proved that he's already like the final boss? Like, do you need more than this video that I'm playing right now for you? Where he's literally saying I'm part of the 15 or 20 fucking spooks that were invited to Washington 20 years ago to decide whether or not we're worthy of free energy, to decide whether or not we're worthy of warp drives. I mean, I think you can probably tell what the answer is because it's kind of the future right now and how this is going to play out. So it's actually a little bit better when you know how this plays out, when we look at it retrospectively and we're like, Jesus Christ, like what is wrong with us, humanity? What is wrong? How are we letting these people just run roughshod over us and decide everything about our lives right now?
Some businessmen and so on. So I thought, well, this is quite an interesting group of people. And so to start the conference off,
how much you want to fucking bet? How much you want to fucking bet? This doesn't even count as my F words, and you'll realize why. How much you want to fucking bet? Bill motherfucking Gates was at that thing. When he said businessman, my mind immediately went to Bill Gates. I bet you anything, Bill Gates' ass is sitting in there deciding what the hell is going to happen to humanity 20 years ago.
He said, this conference is about disclosing something to the American public. As a startup position, let's assume that there have been crash retrievals by Russia, China, and the United States. And the question is, can we bring this out to the public? And so I think and most of the people I knew, when you talked to them later, said, oh, this is really cool. I mean,
him too.
This could really go someplace. So he said, okay, the strategy we're going to use is we're going to make a list of all the areas that you think would be affected by this. And then on each one, you're going to have to grade them on a scale from +9 to -9 as to the level of impact and whether it's positive or negative. Okay. So we started out by making lists. So we started out with the obvious things. Well, I mean, the stock market, maybe religions, well, certainly politics would be affected. So we made a long list. I mean, it was really a long list. And the time we got down to the bottom of the list, we were really in the weeds. Like, okay, if corporation A has access to retrieve materials that corporation B doesn't, then when this comes out, corporation B is going to sue corporation A, then sue the government. This is really going to be a tough thing to kind of handle. So, okay.
Guys, he's literally just spilling the beans right here. He's like, why is UFO disclosure not going to happen? Well, Lockheed Martin's going to get sued out of existence. Boeing's going to get sued out of existence. Their competitors are going to sue them out of existence. We haven't even begun talking about criminal charges for all the crimes these people have committed. Oh, stock market's going to collapse. World economies are going to collapse. He's just saying it right here. All this is exactly what will happen. He's not speculating. He knows exactly what's going to happen because he understands. He's a smart man who understands the idea and concepts of free energy. He understands free energy. So this is why I want people to understand you should not be polarized, especially not in the UFO community. Do I think Lou Elizondo's a spook who's pushing a narrative? Yeah. Would I talk to him? Of course I would. Of course I would. You can't be polarized. You have to understand that the people who are hiding this shit are doing it for reasons in which they think are justified. And you're hearing right now the reasons in which Hal Puthoff and the other various spooks feel justified in basically stealing our future and kicking us in the ass repeatedly over and over again until the day that we die. No, from the day that we're born until the day that we die. Okay.
Okay. So anyway, we broke up into groups. He's taking a certain number of the things that were in our list. Okay.
Get him a water. He needs his water, chat.
And in my group, we added up the numbers, +9 to -9. And we ended up in the negative category, even though we were kind of positively disposed to the idea. So I thought, well, maybe that just has to do with the particular list that we got. So then I talked to other people that were on other lists and said, you know, we came to a negative number also. Well, make a long story short, it turned out that everybody going through these lists, and it was a very sophisticated situation with complex computers and big screens and all that kind of stuff. It finally came down to the fact that the problem was there's so many areas to handle, and there was no way to handle them all at the same time. And so the final result was, therefore, the leader said, we're going to recommend that we don't go forward with this. And so those of us who were participating in this were pretty disappointed, thinking, we started thinking that, this would be a good thing to do. So anyway.
Wow. So, okay, right off the bat, chat. How do we know he's the final boss? Well, he's being invited to Washington with a bunch of spooks to determine whether or not we get disclosure. So if I was making a checklist of people that I'm suspecting of being the final boss, getting invited to Washington with a bunch of spooks to put a bunch of numbers on a piece of paper to determine whether or not we're worthy of disclosure. Yeah, that's exactly the kind of bureaucracy that I would expect from my final boss of UFO disclosure. Like 1,000%. So he's already acting exactly like the guy. Okay, let me hit these donos up. Chris Johnson, you need to get Matthew. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that last name on a live stream. I don't know who that is, chat, but somebody posted in the Discord about who he is, and maybe we will talk to him. I did have the bad news. I had the Robert J. O'Neill interview had to get rescheduled at the last minute. So I don't know when that's going to happen. I'll let you guys know when I have an update on that. Oops. Okay. Here's an invite to the Discord as well. I'm throwing in the chat. Okay. Tic Tac Tundra. Hal Puthoff's research is going to be hidden like Tesla's love you, bro. No, the thing is, like, clearly, thank you for this donation, by the way. Clearly, Puthoff has been allowed to post his papers. They're clearly so unafraid that anyone's going to figure it out that they're happy to have the science get posted. And I've talked to the sources I've talked to as well. This is what I've heard behind the scenes. Take it or leave it at face value. But that some of the science is allowed to be published as long as you're not publishing how to build something or engineer something. Like, that's the difference. Like, understanding that the universe is not empty. It's not an empty vacuum. 0-point energy exists. You're allowed to do that. You're not allowed to tell somebody how to build a floaty orb or a free energy device. I mean, you can even tell people generally how to build a free energy device, but you can't, if you actually do it and show somebody, you're probably going to get a knock on the door. Simple as that. Okay. But it does actually show you that Puthoff might still be, I think he's being honest when he's saying, like, he's predisposed towards disclosure. He's predisposed towards it. This is maybe the perhaps sad irony of the whole situation is the final boss of UFO disclosure might actually want disclosure, but at the same time be gatekeeping it and preventing us from getting it. Wow. That's tough. That's a tough pill to swallow. Dennis, thank you very much for that donation. Appreciate you, brother. Levi. Ironic they don't trust us with 0-point energy, and they're the ones who have dropped a nuke. We have the better track record with WMDs. Yes, this is actually, thank you very much for that $10 donation, the most powerful argument. So if you're out there debating people about this and you're on the side of disclosure of it, the most powerful argument is the worst people in the world already have it. And we've had nukes for 70 or 80 years, and we haven't destroyed ourselves yet. So to think that we're automatically going to destroy ourselves is a bit pessimistic. At the same time, it still doesn't sway me. I still think we're going to destroy ourselves. Sorry, guys. That's just, I got to call it like I see it. I got to be honest 100% with you guys. I want you guys to change my opinion. I want you guys to make me not so jaded. That would be great. But unfortunately, it's probably doomsday. Okay. Andy, thank you. Wow, huge donation, man. Some of you guys are going crazy. Some of y'all are making the debunker Redditor people really salty with your donations. But you know what? I love it. Thank you. In fact, just for this weekend, 100% guaranteed, I'm going to get new furniture in the back here. We're going to spicing this thing up, increase the production quality, make the content even more content-y by adding something in the back. And I already have a bobblehead and some other stuff you guys have sent me that I'm going to put on top of it. Just because of this donation right here, because of Andy. Thank you very much, Andy. I appreciate you, sir. Oh, wait, what was your question? How do we make Hal so famous it becomes... That is exactly the plan also. And Andy had a great comment and question. See, the rest of you out there, try to be like Andy. Obviously, pay me the hundreds of dollars. No, I'm just kidding. ask great questions. The secret of being in the chat is asking smart questions. This is also true of Twitter and social media. Don't just post some stupid reply. Think for a minute. Think about what kind of reply will get somebody to think about what I'm saying and have it be relate to the post above. So how do we make Hal so famous that he becomes our asset? We win him the Nobel Prize. Hal Puthoff needs to win the Nobel Prize for his space-time metric engineering. Sources tell me that he's been nominated like 4 times. Like 4 times. They don't tell who's been nominated. Sources tell me he's been nominated multiple times and that the remote viewing stuff is the only reason why he hasn't won. But of course, when it turns out that we can actually teleport and bend space-time, Hal Puthoff's space-time metric engineering paper is going to be the one that wins the Nobel Prize. So we win him that Nobel Prize, and then he becomes world famous, and then it becomes awkward, like why he won't go on Joe Rogan. And you're like, oh, because he knows about teleportation and warp drives and shit. And like he's been building them for Lockheed Martin or helping build them or I don't know, something, whatever it takes to basically say you'll go to your grave with your secrets. Right? And even Jesse Michaels was saying that this was on the Danny Jones recent interview, I think, saying that like the contractors, it's the third-party contractors that make you sign the NDAs. Those are the scary ones. It's not even the government NDAs that are the scary ones. The scary NDAs are the Lockheed Martin NDAs. The one that says, like, you don't have any rights if you break this NDA. Says that we can do whatever we want with you. And you're like, well, I will fight it in court. And they're like, we will too. And we have the best lawyers and we have unlimited money. Just let that sink in for a second, chat. Thank you very much, David R., for that donation. Thank you for being here. They think they have to slow drip it. In my opinion, it's a common mind control tactic, incrementalism. I 100% agree, 1,000% agree that that's what's going on. They're trying to push the Overton window until it's acceptable. They could probably even argue that the only reason why I'm doing what I'm doing now is that they woke me up to get to this point with all the, Tic Tac stuff and all that. Because that's what woke me up. I would never have been talking about aliens before all that, or UFOs or any of this stuff. No chance. I would never have been interested in it before that. Which would be funny, because then they could claim that, oh, we made you. We made you. You wouldn't be doing this without us. And then I'll say, well, you know what? The old things become obsolete, and then they got to be replaced by something better. And your bitch ass never got the job done. And I just came in off the streets as nobody and was like, oh, what is this? Oh, flying UFO shit and alien. Oh, well, that's a psyop. And turns out we can teleport airplanes, bitch. So yes, it's a slow drip disclosure bullshit process. And well, even if they made this movement, we surpassed them. And now we're basically exposing their own plan. So kind of backfired, didn't it? The plan's not so genius anymore now, is it? Job Martinez, smart question. Hope so. When are we getting a 24-hour Ashton live stream? Chat, you realize I have a full-time job that I do? Like literally today, 7 a.m., 6:30 a.m. till 5 p.m. straight. I was just major project I was working on this today. And all week, frankly. So the day we get this is probably the day Edward C. Lynn comes out and is like, okay, that Ashton guy, that Four Orbs guy on the internet, he was right. I leaked those videos. If that day comes, I'm going to have blunts being injected into both sides of my arms. We'll be injecting Marajahoochas on both sides. I'll be drinking bong rips. I'll be sloppy on live stream. People will be making fun of me, and I'll just be like, I got no cares in the world. We can teleport. I proved that warp drives were real. So that's probably the day we'll get it. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you, Sacariker. I don't know. Salvatore knows everything. Thank you for that donation. Yes, Salvatore Pais probably knows. There's a reason why Sal was like looking for like respect from Hal Puthoff and Eric Davis, because Sal knows that those guys know, right? And you might say, well, how does Sal know? Because the circles are relatively small, and the circles that Sal's in are the U.S. Navy and Space Force. So when we're doing clandestine shit, those are the people. Like literally the number 1 and 2, I would imagine in my mind is the U.S. Navy and the Space Force for doing sketchy shit. And let's just be honest. Sal has seen some UFOs or flying saucers or at least some orbs. He's seen them. No question, no doubt. I'll bet any amount of money on it. Flip the cards over. I've been playing poker again recently, chat. My reads are on point right now. I will guarantee you anything. Sal has pocket aces. No doubt, no question. I got the beat. Okay, and then last one, chaotic good. Track the finance problems with me. Disclosure problems. Yeah, I appreciate you, chaotic good. I just don't want to try that hard. Look at it like this, chaotic good. You're going to get killed if you start looking into the money from some of these people. That's really all I wanted to say. That's it. That's the reality. Let's just be 100% honest. The best thing you probably can do is just talk about the science and stay safe, right? Okay. Chat, you gave me so many donos, I lost track of where we were. So anyway, I wanted to show the scientific papers, but hey, it's not just the scientific papers with Hal Puthoff. He's also got a patent, and it's not just any random patent. It's a gravity communication patent, also known as a quantum communication patent. Come on, man. Quantum communication is just a made-up ass word. Just doesn't mean anything. Quantum just means small. So when you say quantum communication, just means small communication device. This is using a scalar potential. Literally just says a communication system using vector and scalar potentials. It's been approved 5 different times. So for the people who are trying to say that this is like pseudoscience, it's been approved 5 different times. 5 different times. That's a lot of patent officers to be wrong to approve the patent 5 times. I'm sure he's made a lot of effing money off this patent. You know what? I'm just in a good mood, so I'm just going to go ahead and say it. This patent lets the military find submarines in the water that normally we wouldn't be able to detect. Not only does it let us find them, they are just sitting ducks. Submarines are fucking useless. We can see every single submarine, every single place, anywhere in the ocean, anywhere with pinpoint accuracy. Oh, felt good to say that. Delicious, chat. Okay, now that we got that off our chest, I'm feeling better. Oh, yeah, and plane to... I mean, guys, if we can find submarines everywhere, you think we didn't see where a plane crashed? No, chat. We teleported a goddamn airplane. Start coming to terms with it, people out there, because you're going to have to start getting used to the words. Ashton Forbes was right. We teleported an airplane. Apparently, we can teleport airplanes. Where is it? It's all delayed today. Like, this is what happened to the plane that, like, we just can't find, that literally could never have disappeared. Okay, there. I addressed the videos for today's live stream. Okay. Let's do another video. You know what? More Hal Puthoff, chat. More Hal Puthoff. I can't get enough of the guy. Can't get enough. Can't stop, won't stop. Oh, sorry. We got to change this. Chat, they teleported a plane, and all I got was, I don't know. Finish that sentence in the chat for me right now so that when people watch this, they go look at the chat and appreciate it. They teleported an airplane, and all I got was ... Okay. So this is a video here that, I don't know, just popped up, another one. So let's just listen to this video. Let's just let the video do the talking.
Firmage put Fugel on the phone with Hal Puthoff and Kit Green, 2 scientists who had previously worked with the CIA. Puthoff and Green had long been involved with millionaire Robert Bigelow's hunt for the paranormal. Fugel's back-to-back phone conversations with General Clark, Hal Puthoff, and Kit Green, in which they all vouched for Joe Firmage and his endeavors, was enough to convince Fugel.
What we're working with is advanced propulsion technology that
truly has not been released as of yet.
What?
And this patented technology and physics breakthrough is going to change the world as we know it.
Okay, well, Brandon Fugel may be a lot of things. I don't get a liar's vibe from that. Whatever Brandon Fugel's saying right there, he believes that. Brandon Fugel absolutely was convinced in this video that we have propulsion technology that is classified and kept secret. And, oh, well, he was friends with Hal Puthoff. So he knows for a fact. Like, he's been sitting in the smoky room with Hal Puthoff, and Hal Puthoff's like, yeah, it's all real. We've got it. And then he probably asks, like, okay, well, like, why, man? Why are we hiding it? And then Hal Puthoff will just plainly go, because we're not ready. Because we're not ready. And then what do you say in response to that? You just say, yeah, guess you're right.
This video appears to show a celebratory demonstration of Firmage's device. A happy-looking Fugel stands next to Hal Puthoff.
I mean, look at that. So I don't know who Joe Firmage is. Should we go on a side quest? Should we go on a side quest tonight, chat? Or should we just push through? I think we're going to push through. We might come back to it. But okay, so let me hit you with another video. Let's just keep the videos rolling. Next video I want to show you is this one that is basically just a reading, because we need to understand. Let me just lay the groundwork for Hal Puthoff. So I showed you his scientific papers. He comes on the scene in 1987. He's erect as a tent for 0-point energy. Can't get enough of it. Fucking loves it. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Chowing down 0-point energy. Well, it turns out in the 80s, he gets connected with this man named Ken Shoulders while they're at the SRI, Stanford Research Institute, together. And turns out Ken Shoulders, in one of his book or manifesto, whatever you want to call it, Ken Shoulders admitted that in 1980, he read a scientific paper. And in that scientific paper, it convinced him that the ether was real. And then if the ether was real, we could probably do some crazy stuff with plasma. And so Ken Shoulders started working with Hal Puthoff, and their financier was Bill Church of Church's Chicken. Yes, the fried chicken place. Yes, that one. And they started working on condensed charge research. What the hell is that? Well, condensed charge research is basically cold fusion and extracting energy from cold fusion using non-equilibrium plasmas, cold plasmas, extracting useful electrical energy over unity. Wow. The Pentagon actually prioritized this research, condensed charge research, number 3 in the very early 90s of all priorities, only behind optical computing and the stealth bomber. Number 3 was condensed charge research. The next year, it moved up to number 2, presumably behind computers, because I can't imagine anything being more important than computers, but great. So here we go. Now that I gave you the background, let's watch this video. And I will go ahead and shout out Observing the Anomaly. There's a really good, rare Reddit post. And of course, like any good Reddit post, it has very few upvotes compared to what it deserves. And this AI video kind of came along with it.
This is my research into Hal Puthoff and Ken Shoulders. Hal Puthoff is a huge part of the UFO discussion. He's one of the few physicists that takes the subject seriously and is part of To the Stars Academy, aka TTSA. He has claimed to have searched for maverick inventors with his company Earth Tech to find innovative propulsion and energy sources to no avail. However, another very credible physicist who also worked at SRI with Hal in the 1980s claims the work was successful. I want to share his work and figure out why Hal's connection to it hasn't been discussed. Let's reach a consensus if there is something here and if we should try to ask Puthoff about it. Hal Puthoff's connection to the UFO topic is well established. He is a part of TTSA and has been researching.
So that's a picture of Ken Shoulders that you're looking at right there. That's Ken Shoulders. That's actually Ken Shoulders. That's his real picture right there.
The topic for years with inside access to materials, scientists and government officials. His career is very interesting, having been involved in the CIA's Project Stargate remote viewing program. These details are well known. His connection to Ken Shoulders, however, appears to be under the radar. Who is Ken Shoulders? Ken Shoulders was an experimental physicist and father of vacuum microelectronics with a career at SRI and multiple patents. More interestingly, he spent the last half of his life researching what he called exotic vacuum objects, or EVOs, and this work was done in conjunction with Hal Puthoff. Ken claimed that he had found a new source of energy in these strange plasma objects, and all of his work has been archived by his son.
Chat. I mean, so Hal Puthoff is very public when it comes to psychic powers, and quite public as well when it comes to the UFO phenomenon. But when it comes to his connections to Ken Shoulders and the plasmas and the exotic vacuum objects, all of a sudden, very hush-hush. Even though, like I just told you, factually speaking, this technology was prioritized near the top of the Pentagon's research priorities in the early 90s. Just to even get on a list of the research priorities must be like a miracle, let alone to be near the top. Why wouldn't Hal Puthoff want to talk about his super high priority research into condensed charge and plasmas and plasma balls? That's weird. Well, let's just ask Ken Shoulders, like, what would be so important about these plasma balls that might make this worthwhile? Let's just see. This is literally Ken Shoulders.
Other things that could be used for.
You name something you want that's good, and it.
Just in case you can't hear, he's saying anything you want. You can name something you want that's good, and it can probably do it.
Probably be the thing that does it for you. If you say anti-gravity, propulsion properties are just incredible.
You say anti-gravity, the propulsion properties are just incredible. He's talking about the exotic vacuum objects right now. That's Ken Shoulders. That's literally the man being discussed.
We'll be able to push anything you want, anywhere you want. It enshrouds stuff. This is all written in some of these things on the web. And when it enshrouds things, it can allow them to disappear. It does make atoms disappear in laboratory work. Well, that's interesting, you know, because
it enshrouds things. It makes things disappear. In laboratory work, it does make things disappear. Wait, is he talking about teleporting things with plasma balls? Keep going.
When they disappear, I can transport all this stuff through somewhere else, and it reappears. That's teleportation. So it does that very nicely. It's an energy source, just incredible. We can forget all of our energy problems. We can forget all our propulsion problems.
Just for you, chat. Yahtzee! Oh, that's why Hal Puthoff doesn't want to talk about his connection to Ken Shoulders. Because they figured out fucking magic. Oh, duh. That's what's classified. They figured out magic. They figured out free energy. They figured out teleportation. They figured out basically anything that you could use unlimited energy for. They figured out how to do it. And, well, who did they give that information to? Doesn't take a big guess. Literally spooks. The U.S. government, the private military contractors. I wonder how much money you get for selling out humanity. Probably less than you guys imagine. It's probably not even hundreds of millions, but maybe. I bet people are selling out humanity for like tens of millions. But you know what? I'm a pessimist. So let's keep listening now that we have this additional context for really the technology that is being talked about here in this video.
The claims made by Ken are that he found a way to create charge clusters that basically violated known laws of physics and that he could repeat the results. His claims are similar to those made by...
Well, I mean, that's pretty much just the same shit that was just talked about by Pons and Fleischmann in cold fusion. Wait, he said he found results that were breaking the laws of physics and he could repeat them? And yet, for some reason, nobody has any idea who Ken Shoulders is. Everybody knows about Pons and Fleischmann. It's like a big story that got discredited publicly. Ken Shoulders and his exotic vacuum objects, which were way cooler than just putting metal rods in water. That's stupid. That's caveman stupid shit. I want plasma balls. I want plasma Jarvis. That's what the pros are doing. That's what the smarts are doing.
By Lenner and cold fusion, similar to those made by Lenner and cold fusion advocates, except that he actually was getting reproducible results and documenting everything.
I mean, it's similar to cold fusion, except for he was getting reproducible results and documenting everything. And does anybody know about him? Like anyone, if you were to ask like any mainstream academic, they have no fucking clue who he is. If you talk to Salvatore Pais, if you talk to Eric W. Davis, if you talk to all these Black Project engineers, they all know who he is. They all know who he is. So if you're looking for something where, okay, we need this magical technology exists. How are they hiding it? Who developed it? Where is it? Some people are like, well, show it to me. That's not how this works. The whole point of it being hidden is that the only thing they have to do is not show it to you. As long as they just don't show it to you, you will never believe that it exists. That's really where the bar is at. And that's why it was so easy to hide it. So easy. Like this is like when I want to just brag after an easy victory in a video game over some terrible, shitty opponent. The shitty opponent in this case was all of academia. All of academia, everyone in academia, every single mainstream physicist that couldn't figure out that there was this whole branch of physics that solved everything, all out there, all the papers were written. All they had to do was just look. It was just so easy to lie to these idiots. They were so dumb. So stupid. Too easy. Okay.
I've found a link to the archives, and there is a wealth of his work available to the public except for a few CDs and DVDs that are inexplicably unavailable to researchers until 2065. I've done a lot of digging and the story is very odd. It involves Scientology and a wealthy chicken franchise owner, Bill Church Jr. Bill Church funded Ken's research in EVOs and also funded Hal's research in remote viewing. Bill was a member of Scientology and at one point so was Hal. I understand some of my sources may be a little suspect, but I do find the Ken Shoulders work fascinating as he appears to have been a very credible scientist and inventor.
Chat, I think the way this story should start is the work won't be declassified until 2065, and it was financed by Bill Church of Church's Chicken and influenced by Scientology. Boy, man, that is a tough sell for basically anyone out there. Okay, guys, here's my movie. Here's how the story of MH370 begins. Well, turns out we can't tell you anything until 2065, and you know what? The guys that found all the secret science, it was Bill Church of Church's Chicken. Church's Chicken, guys. Turns out fried chicken was how we got 0 point energy. And also Scientology was right. Scientology was right. Turns out it was alien ghosts and volcanoes all along. Who would have ever guessed it? We all made fun of it. Thought it was crazy bullshit. Turns out Xenu is out there and the ghost spirits are trapped here. Ghost spirits are trapped here. Then we can teleport planes. What do you know? You know what, chat? Nothing surprises me anymore. Literally nothing surprises me. That's the answer. It won't even phase me. It won't even phase me a little bit. I'll just continue going on like nothing ever happened.
And his work was inspired by well-documented anomalous results by other scientists such as Winston Bostick. Hal Puthoff, being the interesting person that he is, makes me wonder why nobody else has stumbled upon his connection to Ken Shoulders. He's not just the remote viewing guy or the UFO physicist, he's also the EVO guy. I'd love to ask him some questions about EVOs and Ken Shoulders.
Have you heard of the Sapphire?
He dodges the questions quite a lot, actually, when he gets asked about Ken Shoulders. I wonder if something happened between them. I really do. And the first thing when I Googled Hal Puthoff and Ken Shoulders, I found was this guy's Reddit post about this, that this is like the write-up, basically. Let's keep listening. This is just a really good video.
Project. It's a LEMA reactor partly based on Shoulders and Puthoff's work on EVOs. Puthoff also...
Sapphire project, however you want to say it, is based on Ken Shoulders' work. It's based on the idea of non-equilibrium cold plasmas. And of course, who was on the Sapphire project? Do you even have to guess? What's the name of the live stream that we're watching right now? Hal Puthoff. Actually, in the picture of the Sapphire project, Hal Puthoff's not just in it. He's in the center. He's in the center of it. Very telling, in my opinion. He was the lead consultant for them on this. Somebody knows that it's real. My guess is that the way this is playing out, because people may say, well, what's the fuck is going on then? Is that Hal Puthoff knows that it's real and how to do it, but he can't tell them directly. He can advise them. You're getting close. You're doing okay. But he can't just like give away the secret. It's like you figure out how to build something, and then you're like trying to teach the other people how to do it. But they've got to learn for themselves. You can't just tell them. You got to let them learn for themselves. That's how I imagine Hal Puthoff's relationship is at the Sapphire project.
Eric Davis are on the science review team. They haven't posted an update since 2020, so I'm not sure what's going on with it.
Oh, yeah. So you know what? God, I have so many videos. So many videos, chat.
Days worth of experiment sped up a couple of thousand times is what our day looks like. We work very quickly, as you can see.
That's the real deal. You're staring at it right now. That's the Sapphire project right there.
That's not interesting, right?
That's it actually on. You're watching it on right there. They're powering.
So it's climbing and falling. We're changing chemistry. You might say the gas composition, power settings. And we're monitoring the thermal temperature of the anode and the chamber. Yes, that is the anode melting. We didn't know it at the time because it was happening so slowly.
The anode is melting. So you see it fall right here? It's actually melting.
Yes, that is the anode melting. We didn't know it at the time because it was happening.
I think people were gasping in the background because they realized that amount of energy almost certainly had to be excess energy.
Yes, that is the anode melting. We didn't know it at the time because it was happening so slowly.
See that?
But when we realized what was happening, we had to shut Sapphire down. It just got too hot.
Huh. Wow.
At the minute, but it seemed to be going well. Up until they went dark, that is.
Yes, I've heard of this. My understanding is that they got their results very accidentally, and my interpretation is that Hal and Davis, a number of governmental organizations if I remember correctly, were interested in their work. I think they were trying to recreate a model of the sun using only plasma rather than the accepted hydrogen fusion model. I don't think LEN or EVOs were a part of the original work. They tried to measure the surface of the plasma, and that's when they started to realize that it was more energetic than expected, and apparently they also discovered it was transmuting elements. Obviously, if that...
Chat, when somebody says more energetic than expected, do you know what those words mean? In physics, mainstream physicists believe that energy can never be created nor destroyed. You can only convert it. So for something to be more energetic than expected, that would imply an over unity situation. You're getting more energy out than what you were expecting to get out. How could you expect less? How could there be more energy than what you're expecting? Doesn't the math say that there's a limit? Unless it's just magically more efficient than what you were expecting before. No. It's because he's saying they're free energy. He's saying that they were seeing, and keep in mind, the people that know about this stuff, they know how to say it in a way that it confuses stupid people. So why am I here? I'm here to turn you into a smart person. When they say more energetic than expected, you should say, what the fuck does that mean? But then you should think about it. You should go, wait, what does that mean? Does that mean they're getting more energy out than what they were expecting from normal physics? If so, are they saying that they're getting over unity heat out of this right now? The same thing that Pons and Fleischmann were saying in the 1989's cold fusion? And yes, Colin, transmuting elements as well. This is the other game changer, that it's so taboo to say this, to say that transmuting elements is real. It's going to be real. And the scary part about it isn't that it's real, because normal physics has no problem that transmuting elements is real. The problem they have is that we're going to be able to do it at low energy, very low energy. How to describe the problem of fusion? With hot fusion, we're basically just generally trying to make a region hotter, adding more energy to it. And then at some point, we're just hoping that things are going to come together. Just naturally, if we add more energy, things are going to be faster and faster, and then an energetic collision will happen and fusion will occur. We're basically hoping on random chance. The best hot fusion can ever do is random chance. Does that sound very efficient to you, chat? Random chance? Just hope something happens? No. And that's why even if hot fusion ever produces over unity, which I'm skeptical of, it's going to be capped pretty highly. It's never going to be very efficient. And that's probably why they're going down the hot fusion path, because they know that it's basically a dead end, where even if you're able to pull it off, it's going to be super inefficient. But if you can produce fusion and transmute elements at low temperatures with low energy levels, because we don't just hope for random chance. Instead, we say, are there any forces, any other forces involved in this theory of fusion other than just temperature? Oh, yes. Pressure, gravity. In fact, gravity is probably the real factor in why fusion happens, not temperature. Fusion's not happening in the sun because it's very hot. It's getting very hot because the elements are being pressed together. It's the pressing together that's causing the fusion. So when we want fusion to happen, maybe we should try to press it together, like pressing our plasma together. Oh, turns out that like literally is magnetically confined fusion, Z-pinch. That's what all these things are. There you go. In just a couple minutes, you just became an expert on what cold fusion and all fusions are, the forms of producing them. And now, hopefully, you've come to your own conclusion. You realize that hot fusion is stupid. Why are we not using like magnetic pinch and confinement? In fact, listen to the end of this video now.
That's true, it's a big deal. I believe they got their patent in Canada rather than the US, and I could be wrong, but for some reason I recall getting the impression it may have been to keep the patent from being withheld by the government for national security purposes. That is a real thing that happens. Please don't forget to check the links in the description to learn more.
Absolutely. It's very important to see the sources and dig deeper into the detail.
Okay, that was not what I was expecting him to say at the end. What I was looking for is Okay, I don't know where it's at. Okay, anyway, I guess I'm just going to say it. In the DIRD, extracting energy from the quantum vacuum, the EVOs are referenced. Ken Shoulder's work on EVOs is referenced as an ideal candidate for further research. Ideal. Just to give you an idea of how huge that endorsement is, Eric W. Davis wrote it, and Eric W. Davis voted for Kamala Harris. The dude is like the biggest sourpuss ever. For him to come out and say it's ideal, you know it's got to be 1,000% legit. If he can't shit on it or come up with some disinformation on it, Kamala Harris. Shake my head, chat. Eric Davis, brother. You're the world's number one expert on wormholes, but not even close to the world's number one expert when it comes to politics. Kamala Harris. Sorry, chat. Okay. Just kidding, everybody. Don't get offended. It's just some fun jokes. Okay. Let me make this go away. Okay, more videos, just because I'm embarrassed now. Chat, more videos. Okay, Hal Puthoff is just going to casually explain 0-point energy to you. Wait, is it Hal Puthoff? I have a couple of my things categorized differently. Yeah, here we go. Hal, go ahead and explain 0-point energy for everybody out there, please.
So once quantum theorists realized that energy was there, the next question was, well, is there any way to tap it? Back in about 1984, a researcher at Hughes Laboratory by the name of Robert Forward showed that there was a particular effect called the Casmir effect, which demonstrated that, in fact, this energy could be tapped, even though on a minuscule basis to start. And that is, if you put up two metal plates, it slightly shields the region in between, just like a car might shield radio signals coming in. And
chat, this music is perfect, by the way.
And because this energy comes from all sides, if it's slightly shielded in the interior portion between a couple of plates, these plates will get pushed together, and that's the Casmir force, pulls plates together. And then when they hit, they create heat. So we've actually converted some of this vacuum energy into heat.
So there you go, 100% proof. And it's not even that hard to understand that how you can convert to energy, that vacuum energy, is like, oh, dude, just put two plates together. If you want to understand conceptually, this is Hal Puthoff right here. I'm actually convert Hal Puthoff. Hal Puthoff's he's an old school gentleman right now. I'm just in your face, take it or leave it, don't give a shit. Hal Puthoff's like, bro, are you an idiot? You don't understand how we can extract energy from the quantum vacuum? Well, let me just simplify it. Take two plates. If it's hard for you to understand, take two plates and just have them be very close to one another. And then just look at them with your eyes. Look at the plates with your eyes. And then watch when they go like this. Is that magic? How do the plates do that? How do the plates do that? And the plates got hotter, so that means they must have gained some energy somehow. So we know they gained some amount of energy, and we didn't do anything, and the plates just came together magically by themselves with no input whatsoever. So we just witnessed energy come from nowhere by just having two plates be next to each other. And yes, this works in a vacuum. This is not a situation where it's the air doing it or a misunderstanding. Casmir effect is 1,000% proven to be real. This is why I sit here and I just wonder, guys, just bring up the Casmir effect every single time you can. There's no refuting it. Anyone who thinks you can't extract energy from the Casmir effect, just needs to use a brain. Just use your brain. And we're not saying that the plates are how you're going to produce infinite energy. What we're saying is that if you don't understand how you can produce energy from 0-point energy, just look at the Casmir effect and use your brain. And then think outside the box just a little bit, okay? Because the next thing Robert Forward was trying to do was come up with an experiment that would show perpetual energy extraction. And spoiler alert, Robert Forward didn't publicly figure it out, but I'm just going to go ahead and say it. The answer is plasma. The answer was always plasma because what you need is not two metal plates, but you just need an amorphous blob of charge that you can just swirl around with magnets. Quite literally, that's exactly the answer. It's just literally an amorphous blob. If you don't know what amorphous means, just like a blob of plasma charge. Here's some electrons, here's some ions that you can just manipulate like a bubble. And how do you manipulate with the bubble? With waves, magnetic waves. Boom. That's the answer. Back to Hal Puthoff.
Well, when you go to look at the numbers, you find out that there's enough energy in the coffee cup to evaporate all the world's oceans if you could get it all of it. So this raised the issue among theorists. Well, can we manipulate this energy? Could we tap it for spaceflight application, for example? And there are a couple ways to go. Could we get propulsion out of it? Could we use it as an energy source? And so these are the areas that modern theorists are looking at.
Chat. November 2nd, year 2000. 2000. This video was 24 years ago. And I can just tell, looking into my man's eyes right now. I'm looking into his eyes right here. Hold on, let me look at you looking into his eyes. I can just tell I'm looking straight into his eyes right now. Ooh, he's looking at me back. This man is already talking about shit he's already built. He's already talking about shit he's already known. He's already built this stuff. 100%. He's the final boss. I don't want to get him killed because, honestly, I respect the hell out of him, and I want him to teach me some more shit. I got a lot to learn, and I want to live to be 88 for number one. Number two, I want a warp drive so I can warp drive the hell out of here. Peace, y'all. Peace, I'm out. Humanity was fine. I'm just greener pastures. Greener pastures out there. Okay, you know what? More Hal Puthoff chat. Let's just let it rain. We're just going to let it rain, Hal Puthoff. Just let him speak to us in his own words. Hal Puthoff, tell me about some plasmas. Tell me, just, you know what? I don't even believe Ashton Forbes. This guy's full of shit. He's talking about teleporting airplanes. Obviously, none of that's real. Let's just get more.
I mean, one of the things that has been a puzzle is, well, the electron is said to be a point particle. Well, why doesn't its Coulomb field then cause it to have an enormous mass associated with that energy? Well, it turns out if you take into account the vacuum fluctuation energy, which is a negative potential in that situation, they balance out. So just solving little pieces as I went along.
Hal Puthoff's randomly like, hey, okay, you need more proof? He's like, why is the electron not much, much heavier? Why is its mass not much, much huger? He's saying because it's interacting with a 0-point field all the time. That's the reason. He's like, we're just solving basically everything that people don't understand from the quantum mechanical perspective. This is why I love Hal Puthoff, is that he took his quantum mechanics understanding of physics, and he was like, how can we solve all of these experimental things that we're seeing, and can we solve it under one unifying umbrella? Good point, Ashton. Very good point. Let's let him keep talking. World on 0-point energy. As far as I can... Oh, wait. You know what? This is another great point. Else that is a bigger authority on 0-point energy. Hal Puthoff is the #1 expert in the world on 0-point energy. As far as I can tell, nobody else is even close. Eric Davis is probably number 2.
But the main thing, of course, was to try to figure out something to get the energy out. And of course, the Casmir effect shows that energy can be extracted from the 0-point energy fields.
Okay. I've gone on 100 podcasts, and I want to say on at least half of them, I've just said the same thing that Hal Puthoff said. Energy can be extracted from the 0-point energy field. No argument. 1980 perpetual in the chat already.
Great, you get you a puff of energy, but if you're pulling it apart to do it again, you've got to put in as much energy as you got out. So you got to find some other way. So we looked at some plasma potential aspects. Those are not.
Yahtzee! Yes! Yes! Is he watching my live streams, chat? Is he watching my live streams? Everybody finish your drink. Oh my God. What can I say, chat? What can I say? No one for that interview that you just watched was like from less than 6 months ago, like November. He goes and does that interview and just is like, Ashton Forbes is going to be listening to this, so I'm just going to go ahead and say that, well, maybe plasma is the secret to manipulating the Casmir effect without pulling the plates apart. Chat, do you have any idea how many PhD physicists do not understand what I just told you guys? Why is my thing broken, man? Sucks. The number of PhD physicists that don't understand that the Casmir effect is more than just two plates coming together, like 99% of them. So if you want to be smart, realize that when you talk about the Casmir effect, you can just mention Robert Forward. Already showed that, yes, of course, we can extract energy. And you shouldn't need Robert Forward to understand that if you're watching two plates magically come together and produce heat, that energy is being produced. Shouldn't require that level of, I need a citation, right? But okay, fine. Robert Forward said that. And then when it comes to how to manipulate it for perpetual extraction, well, that's where plasma comes into play. Do you understand now why plasma research, magnetohydrodynamics is like cutting edge research? This is why. Because figuring out how to manipulate plasma is the secret to probably everything. Definitely free energy, for sure. Yeah, the reason why the volume's going up and down is my mic is broken. It's changing on its own. I'm not touching it. Huh. That's really weird. Keeps doing it over and over. Sorry. Shit, chat. Okay, maybe that'll fix the chat. There you go. Sorry. Yeah, it's probably just the aliens messing with me. You know what? I should have just played another video instead of sitting here silently like an idiot. So let's just play another video. Hal Puthoff, tell me some more, sir. Tell me some more. What else can you tell me? Well, what does Hal Puthoff think about overunity? Hal Puthoff has publicly never said that he's seen. Oh my God, what is wrong with this? Hal Puthoff is publicly. Yeah, just change. Hello. Okay. Hal Puthoff. Oh yeah. Okay. It's adapting to my voice. Huh. Okay. So chat, my microphone is literally changing. Like when I'm talking, the sound is. I'm watching it change right in front of me. Huh. Okay. I'm going to have to just deal with it and leave it as it is. Hal Puthoff has never publicly stated that he is like seeing over unity, but that's actually not true. This video right here of Hal Puthoff shows that he has.
This is a conversion of vacuum energy into another form, in this case, light, heat, radio waves. So we know of a laboratory that has some experiments going in which they were creating turbulent bubbles in fluids and then measuring the energy in the water by the heat, and they were getting over unity efficiency. And so we have now arranged to have those devices shipped to our laboratory, and we're going to do a very detailed study. But in this case, we're talking about kilowatts of excess energy.
Not 1 watt.
Right, kilowatts.
Well, there he is casually talking about testing some experiments that they were showing over unity. My guess is that those experiments either are never disclosed or they sadly just didn't yield the results. Sorry, go look somewhere else. Okay. Let's see. But that's rare Puthoff right there. That video is rare. You're not going to find that easily, I don't think. How about some space-time metric engineering? Actually, no. Let's listen to Hal Puthoff wrote these DIRDs. So, if you're not familiar with the DIRDs are probably the most important scientific papers of our lifetimes. There are 38 of them, and Hal Puthoff was given the contract by the Defense Intelligence Agency to himself contract out to the top Black project engineers and physicists that he knew all the most advanced technologies that would become, let's say, more commonplace or accepted by the year 2050. By the year 2050. So here's Hal Puthoff talking about those DIRDs.
There are many other cases as well. So, and then I would just say that before we jump in here, the last thing is.
Wait, how long is this?
Well.
Classified. I'm choosing one here, metamaterials for aerospace use. I'd love to talk about really fancy materials, but they're classified. However, there's a lot of materials that have been picked up or provided even in the public domain. I'm going to give an example because it shows exactly what the structure is for how to deal with this.
Okay, I'm just going to talk over them because it's hard to hear them. So here are some of the, I think these are some of the DIRDs, right? Let me just look. Think these are the DIRDs. Yeah, gravity wave communication. Yeah. Okay, so these are some of the DIRDs. So there's 38 of them, right? And you can just tell from the list here. Like, look at these lists. The names of these DIRDs here. I thought there's like, oh, yeah, okay, here we go. So here's the one that Puthoff wrote, the advanced space-time propulsion, space-time vacuum metric engineering. This is the one that I was talking about, the Nobel Prize. And then he was talking about these metamaterials. And then here's the other list, I think. Is this the other ones? Yeah. So here's another list of them. So aneutronic fusion. So aneutronic fusion, guys, is basically cold fusion as well. They just came up with another fancy name for it. So when you see this aneutronic fusion, that's yet another variant of cold fusion. Superconductors and gravity research. That's about Ning Li and Eugene Potklinov, who were 100% legit and they solved it. But many people have. It's not even that impressive anymore to solve gravity. Warp drive, dark energy, and extra dimensions. I mean, I want to point out to you, chat, that how I found these DIRDs was these two scientific papers. Warp drives, dark energy, and extra dimensions. It's actually the manipulation of extra dimensions because I have the real name of the paper memorized. And then the traversable wormholes, stargates, and negative energy. Those two scientific papers, when I first read them, I thought I was reading sci-fi. When I started to read and learn about the physics, I realized those two papers are not science fiction at all. They're literally a how-to manual to understand the physics of warp drives and wormholes, which are 100% real. If you believe our reality is real, Einstein came up with his equations by testing reality. And then just taking the equations to their logical conclusion. And then somebody took Einstein's equations and took those, they stretched those to their max, and they realized you can produce a wormhole. You can bend space-time. And then it was just a question of how do you bend space-time? Once you figure out how to bend space-time, we'll be able to produce wormholes and warp drives. So just do the logic now. Let's just add up the logic that I just said there together now. If somebody has figured out how to bend space-time, they've now figured out how to produce a warp drive and a wormhole. And if they've realized a way that it can take much less energy than what conventional physics would assume, you've just found the secrets to the universe. Because now you can produce a warp drive or a wormhole at a much, much, much lower energy cost. And that opens the door to everything, especially when we have transmutation of elements on the table, because now we can produce any element we want at a very low energy cost. G to the GG. Let's do a couple super chats, guys. Oh man, you guys are on fire in the super chats. Okay. Chaotic good again. I won't die. There's still shell contractors siphoning money away from ZPE. You know what? That's like the most noble cause ever. You know what? I also feel like you might be trying to get on my good side. But you know what? It's working. It's working. I'm a sucker for ZPE. We teleported a goddamn airplane. You're goddamn right we did. There were snakes on that airplane, and we had to teleport that thing to Diego Garcia. Jay Trent, thank you very much for that super sticker donation. I appreciate it. Leha, hey, thank you very much for being here. If Salvatore is single, you should hook up a girl. You should hook a girl up. He is, I think, actually. I think he's separated, maybe divorced. But yeah, seems like a good guy. Especially, I would say Sal needs to be married to a nice Italian woman. Nice Italian woman. I feel like he loves, I know he loves Italian food somehow. I just know that. If I'm wrong, let the Lord smite me down right now. I think I'm right. I'll try to hook him up. As Milk, thank you for that donation. Why do you think other countries don't disclose ZPE? This is another great question. See, look at me empowering you guys to ask better questions. What's to say that they don't have it? Maybe they have it and they don't want to disclose it for the same reasons. What if they've done the same calculus? This is one of the reasons as well. And just to throw this out there, I don't know the answer. I don't know. But what I do know is the answer is probably going to be scary. Because what if Japan and China and Russia did the same thing that Hal Puthoff did at the beginning of this live stream? What if they were like, oh yeah, when we do the numbers, when we run the calculus, it's the end of the world. It's never positive. It's always negative. Society is going to collapse. People are going to kill themselves. You're going to have economy fall apart. There's going to be all this upheaval. And then somebody's going to destroy the whole everything eventually with 0-point energy technology. So the other countries said the same thing. What if they all decided like, yeah, we're just not going to tell humanity about this? And if you're the government, you're the one in control. Why do you give a crap if humanity has free energy? It doesn't make any difference. If you're the government, it doesn't matter if energy is being produced or if there's just unlimited energy for everybody. You have no stake one way or another. So might as well just stick with the system where you're in full control versus the system where all the control goes back to the people and they don't need you, Mr. Government, anymore. And they don't have to pay taxes anymore because they can just go live off the grid and do whatever the hell they want. You can never find them. Well, you can because you got spy satellites everywhere and like gravity shit that can see submarines, but you get my point. So that's just a thought. And yes, any of these other options, deep state, aliens, future humans, breakaway civilizations, those are all pretty messed up, man. And it wouldn't surprise me if they have some level of psychological control over our populace, directly or indirectly. So when I say shit like everything's a lie, the universe is world's a matrix or whatever like that, I'm not like saying it to be cool or whatever like Andrew Tate does. No, I'm just saying like literally we're living in a simulation, holographic world, matrix, quite literally everything's a lie. And I'm out here just guiding sheep, being like, hey, sheep, you know what? You can be smarter than a PhD physicist. All you need to do is realize that the Casmir effect plus plasma equals free energy. You've already gotten better than most PhD physicists. That's simple. Brian, do you think it's possible that China could have an unsupervised compartment of government like the U.S. and that they could be both at war out of the lower state of government control? Not only do I think that they could have one, theirs might even be more efficient than ours is. I saw people talking about this as well. What if their system of government, of totalitarian government, is more efficient than ours? You want me to really scare you? What if China's communist government, because they have full control over the people, they have full firewall access over any information the people receive. They have the people will only believe whatever comes from their own government. What if that's the level of control you need to prevent people from destroying themselves with zero-point energy technology? What if the U.S. isn't afraid of China having it because they know that China has control over their people? What if the U.S. is afraid of like the Middle East where Islamic State created a whole country for themselves before they got glassed by the people with the orbs, right? Those are the people that they're afraid of. It does legitimately scare me that we might have to make a choice between free energy and the very high likelihood of self-destruction, or free energy and totalitarian rule. And if not the complete stripping of freedoms, quite a loss of a lot of freedoms. That is the dark thing. That's the thing that I think is the big dark thing, right? And it's funny why that's the thing. Because it's kind of obvious, but at the same time, like, you undervalue its importance. It's like right now, a lot of you get very angry. A lot of libertarians, and I am one, will get inherently angry when you bring up this idea of like, yes, we'll give you free energy, but you have to give up your freedom. You just get so pissed about that. You know, fuck you. Give me the free energy. Right? But that might be the ultimate choice that we have to make. And then that would end up being the perfect dark answer to this whole thing, which is, sure, we might be able to have free energy, but you have to give up all your rights. So are you willing to do that? A lot of people are going to say no, not even for free energy. Oh, well, now you realize why we don't have free energy. Like I say, free energy becomes political. If that's the stakes, free energy becomes political. Is it Levy or Levi? I don't know. Thank you for the donation. Use fields to drive the fusion. It'll squeeze the energy. Yep. Going back to the pinch. Thank you very much. Joyce Johns, Bookworm, Mike donation. Thank you. It's actually working fine now. Maybe I just have to maybe it's because my volume got too high. It's like break the mic or something. I'm stepping a little further away from the mic. It works better anyway. I don't want to be crowded on the mic. Arthur Jones, thank you very much into that donation, that $20 donation. I'm deep diving. I love the science. Is there any way we can replicate over Unity at home? You could probably pull it off, yeah, and I think people do, but the question isn't pulling it off at home. It's pulling it off and making it practical and also making it convincing. Getting a very tiny amount of over Unity, sure, but people are just going to dismiss it. To do something like, even before you think about doing this, watch the Liberty Engine videos on the internet. Watch those videos. After you're done watching the Liberty Engine video, so look at the Liberty Engine video and go, what if this is real? Okay, ask yourself that. And then realize all the lengths those people are going to try to prove to the world that it's real. And then realize that still the vast majority of the people think it's all bullshit. So when you try to say, oh, can we create it at home? Well, maybe, but even if you do, everyone's going to think that you're full of shit anyway. No one's going to believe you. And if you say, well, I'll just have somebody come and test it, CNN will just come over. No, they won't. No, they won't. I challenged people to test it and nobody would come. Not even big YouTubers when they got directly called out, when they were directly replied, they were all too cowards to even come look. Nobody will even come look. It's crazy, bro. Anyway, what were the names of the Navy guards? Matt Kennedy and I don't know. It's Matt Kennedy. So just Google MH370 and Navy SEALs and you'll find it. But I think about those guys a lot, man. Anyway, got to keep going. Move on. DC, thank you for the $10 donation. The number I is not imaginary. I is interdimensional, half negative phase constant. That's a cool thought. Thank you for sharing, sir. Okay. More Hal Puthoff. So that DIRDs video, that was hard to hear. Let's do a different one. Okay, so here's a different Hal Puthoff video that I like. I think this is a different one, right?
Called empty space
isn't
really empty at all. It's actually full of energy. So instead of being like kind of a quiet, empty lake, it's more like the froth at the base of a waterfall or something. And this energy is basically electromagnetic in nature. And the energy density is quite high. In fact, it's so high that when it was first discovered mathematically, it was thought to be some kind of artifact of the mathematics. But then as time went on, there were even Nobel Prize winning experiments that showed that this energy in so-called empty space was really there. We don't usually notice it because it's so homogeneously distributed. It'd sort of be like sitting in a bathtub with at exactly your body temperature. You might not notice the water.
Chat, I want to point out, he's not speaking speculatively here. He's not speaking speculatively. He's being definitive. He's definitively saying there is this huge amount of energy. It was actually calculated to be infinity. And they had to normalize the numbers because it didn't make any sense to them. Quite literally, they calculated infinity. And this huge amount of energy is out there, and we don't recognize it because we're in an equilibrium the same way you don't recognize the temperature of the bath when your body temperature is the same as the bath temperature. It's not that the temperature is zero. It's at 80 degrees or whatever. You're just in equilibrium. 90 degrees, whatever. 98.6. I don't know. Anyway, you get my point. You get my point.
But under certain circumstances, it can be disturbed or perturbed, and then it has effects. As I mentioned, some effects on atomic emission, for example, is what eventually ended up in a Nobel Prize for Willis Lamb of Yale University. It's called the Lamb shift. And this is a recognition that, in fact, this energy disturbs atoms. So atoms aren't sitting in a void. They're sitting in the sea of energy.
I mean, did you just listen to the man, guys? This is what I'm trying to teach you, quantum mechanics, okay? I taught you on Monday, space is not empty, right? Space is not empty, and how electrons work, how all that stuff works. And then out here, he's saying that the Lamb shift shows that this energy is impacting molecules, atoms. It's impacting everything all around us. That is such a huge revelation. The energy is interacting with us. It's there. We know it's there 100%. Casmir effect shows it. It's interacting with us all the time. Well, wait a minute. If this energy is there interacting with us all the time, can it be the explanation for gravity? Can it be the explanation for why we don't see dark energy, dark matter, why we can't find that stuff? Can it be the reason why we have inertia, the resistance to acceleration? Can it be the reason why we have mass at all? Why do we have mass at all? Maybe the answer to all those questions is the field of zero-point energy all around us all the time. Of course it is. Of course it is, chat. Of course the zero-point energy field all around us is what's causing mass, gravity, inertia. And it's the answer for dark energy and dark matter, which is just why is everything stickier than it should be? Because you're sitting in a sea of energy. Duh. I hope in the future, when this is all proven true, people just take me a clip going, because we're sitting in a sea of energy. Duh. And let's just play that over and over and over again. So people humble themselves and realize, oh yeah, all the experts out there doesn't really amount for like shit unless anyone has like good ideas that actually make sense.
So once quantum theorists realized that energy was there, the next question was, well, is there any way to tap it? And it was thought originally that probably not. It might be like trying to tap the heat energy around us. And you can quickly prove for thermodynamic reasons that it'll take more energy to tap it than you'd get out of it, so you don't come out ahead. But back in about 1984, a researcher at Hughes Laboratory by the name of Robert Forward showed that there was a particular effect called the Casmir effect, which demonstrated that in fact this energy could be tapped, so-called empty space.
Bazing! Oh wait, why is it playing again? So there we go. I think one more video for tonight for Hal Puthoff to really just, I don't know, icing on the cake or whatever. I think most people in the chat are probably convinced at this point, but I could probably go on. I have like another dozen videos of Puthoff actually. But you know what? Let's do one of him talking about wormholes, right? So if now we have this view of zero-point energy, right? This can actually explain warp drives and wormholes. You can use this concept to move yourself through the 0-point energy field by simply displacing the 0-point energy in front and behind you. It's called Miguel Alcubierre's warp drive metric.
Space-time thing where you talked about contracting space in front of a ship and then having it travel at warp speed, that has to do with this background fluctuation.
That's right, having change in the density, as we say, changing the polarizability of the vacuum is another way of looking at it.
So you're accelerating through the vacuum, right? Because when you say you're accelerating within this quantum fluctuation, it has an effect on that background field.
That is certainly the case, because it's essentially pushing aside the vacuum fluctuation to some degree, and that's what's causing the resistance.
You're basically swimming through the background fluctuations with a warp drive. You're basically swimming. That's what you're doing.
Resistance we call inertia.
But how would you actually contract space-time to do that? I mean, what effect could you put out there to have that?
Well, we know from switching over the general relativity side of it that you can look at the equations, whether you're using standard general relativity or some of the other approaches to general relativistic type effects, and very strong fields, strong masses. I mean, the mass of the Earth affects the space around it, which, thinking in terms of 0-point energy, is affecting the distribution of 0-point energy.
So there's the other piece too. The mass of the Earth is affecting the distribution of 0-point energy. What does that mean, chat? It means gravity. The mass of the Earth is impacting the 0-point energy. Huh. That actually makes sense. So no wonder there's this gravity is now related to the mass. Of course it is. You can direct the beauty of 0-point energy. You can insert 0-point energy into physics without it messing anything up. It can just sit right on top. And why don't physicists like it? Well, Sabine Hassenfelder she just didn't like it. Just didn't like it. That's her big thing against it.
So if you go to that equation, F equals ma, where the mass times the acceleration equals the force. If you create a force, you can generate a mass that would have an effect on space.
We might generate a force that would move a mass, start to accelerate it. Or, I mean, what you'd really like to do is just scoop out the energy in front of us, and the energy behind us would just shoot us forward. So,
and that's possible. That's not just a
genius. I've never heard anybody else on any other video I've ever seen ever say this. This is how far ahead of the game Puthoff was. This was probably 20 years ago. This was a rare moment where Puthoff gave away the game, and we would have never have known it unless we saw these videos. If we had not seen, hold on, wait for it, these MH370 videos, he just said, he explained what was wrong with Miguel Alcubierre's warp drive metric. In Miguel Alcubierre's warp drive metric, you are contracting space in front of you and you're expanding the space behind you. And the idea then is you would let the behind you push you forward. What Hal Puthoff just said is he just said those videos were real right there. Why? Well, when we're looking at this video, you see this black line in front of the orbs, but you don't see anything behind the orbs. The black line behind the orbs is just coming from before the orbs and coming behind it, but it doesn't look like they're expanding the space behind them. Maybe they are and I'm wrong, but it doesn't appear to be. What it looks like is they're just scooping out the 0-point energy in front of them, and then they're just falling into it. That's what it looks like when you look at this. You can see these dark lines are actually in front of the orbs, pulling them forward. If you don't believe me, check for yourself. No question about it. So, say that again, Hal Puthoff.
Is just scoop out the energy in front of us, and the energy behind us would just shoot us forward. So,
and that's possible. That's not just a Star Trek concept, but you've seen.
No, we know. I mean, small effects, all with general relativity, for example, is based on these principles. And we can calculate, well, gee, if only we had so much energy.
Right.
And then we could make this big effect. We could power as we, I mean, small effect, so much energy.
Right.
Based on these principles. Is based on these
Wait
principles.
for it.
And we can calculate, well, gee, if only we had so much energy.
Right.
Oh, gee. If only we had so much energy. Well, we could break the Schwinger limit and we could see those effects. If only we had enough energy to break the Schwinger limit, we could see those effects like warp drives and wormholes. Well, there's this guy that I talked to one time who was talking about something like that. Talking about something really similar to that, actually, now that I think about it. I think he had said something about, oh, shit, I have a lot of videos from him. Oh, yeah, here it is. This video right here.
You have
Wait,
spoken publicly with a guy named Ashton.
Okay, that's not the right video. Okay, I guess we'll just play that video instead.
The destination, so there must be a fourth orb. And he thinks this is man-made tech and that the craft was somehow teleported out of the sky. What do you think? Don't forget Dave Rossi's fourth orb. That's why Ashton now goes by 4 orbs.
Interesting.
4 orbs. There must be 4 orbs. Remember the whole idea that once you open the black hole, what if there is a white hole?
Oh, here it is.
The three orbs would.
What were your impressions when you saw
This is what I was looking for.
specifically this video here for the first time?
Oh man, when I saw those orbs, I saw this thing, this one orb just start exactly what it's doing now. Just start to go around this thing. And all of a sudden it started join another one and then another one. And I said, oh my God, they're forming a bubble of non-ionizing radiation around this thing. There's no way what's about to happen. I anticipated, do you understand? I knew before that black hole happened. Let's call it a black hole.
You knew that was going to happen beforehand? Just
I knew
watching
that would happen. I knew that would happen. That's why
Really?
when I said, this is it. This is the Pais effect. I of course, it's
That right there is Sal Pais, U.S. Navy engineer and Space Force engineer with 5 UFO patents. 3 of them are approved.
We can make this big effect. We could power a spaceship and so on. It's just that we don't have the...
Basically figured out Hal Puthoff's science. They figured it out. Probably with Hal Puthoff's help, right? Probably with his help. They figured it out. They made it work. They figured out how to get those energy levels that Hal Puthoff was just talking about. If I go back 15 seconds.
And that's possible. That's not just a Star Trek concept, but you've seen...
No, we know, I mean, small effects, all of general relativity, for example, is based on these principles. And we can calculate, well, gee, if only we had so much energy.
Right.
The whole thing of Sal's work is that bit right there. Oh, gee, if only we had so much energy. That's the whole reason for the plasmas, is that the energy required can only be achieved by non-equilibrium plasmas. It's the only thing that can do it that we have right now. We'll probably come up with some other stuff, but we only need one for right now. We need these energy levels. The Pais effect is quite literally breaking the Schwinger limit. The thing where we get our energy levels so high that reality breaks down. Why is reality breaking down? Because we're fucking with the 0-point energy field. It's really not that hard to understand. We're messing with the 0-point energy field, and when you do that, you manipulate gravity. You create a gravitational pressure force. That's what gravity is. It's all it takes. Part of the reason why, in my opinion, that they've had to hide this is that it's easy. It's easy to make. That's the problem. It's not hard. And once we figure it out, we'll wonder why we never figured it out sooner. We'll go, how do we not figure this out sooner? And we'll go, oh yeah, because they've been like killing people and hiding the technology and all this other sketchy ass shit. And that's the reason why we haven't got it. So hate to be the bearer of bad news. Now, one last thing I will say is that Hal Puthoff is also connected to the Casmir cavities. The Casmir cavity patent by Garrett Model and Bernard Haish, he knows them. He worked with Bernard Haish. Bernard Haish is Lockheed Martin. Bernard Haish and Alfonso Rueda came up with the papers that were accompanied by Hal Puthoff that say 0-point energy doesn't just explain gravity, it explains mass and inertia too. And now that same Bernard Haish is making has a patent that's about to expire with Casmir cavities on microchips that are producing free energy, literally free energy microchip. Quite literally, Casmir cavity is a free energy microchip. Go look at it. Go look at it. And the way that it works is, let's just say, startlingly similar to Hal Puthoff's scalar quantum communication patent. The reason why it's so similar is they're all doing the same thing. They're all manipulating gravity. They're all manipulating the source, which is 0-point energy. Even Eric Davis, who voted for Kamala Harris, it's important to point that out. Even he said that 0-point energy is a pressure force. Gravity is a pressure force created by 0-point energy, and that we can manipulate it.
We already know, and a lot of other physicists know, that Einstein proved that gravity is not a fundamental force of nature. It emerges from the fabric of space-time when it's distorted or curved or bent. And Sakharov, he believed that the metric elasticity of space described by the space-time metric, which is just a very simple equation actually. And he said that should come from the quantum vacuum fluctuations, because he sees the quantum vacuum fluctuations as being the seed of all existence. And he was right. Basically, that started from Richard Feynman when he got the Nobel.
Not only does he just say, yes, Sakharov was right, everything's coming from the background fluctuations, but then he just immediately glazes Richard Feynman, which everybody should be glazing Richard Feynman. He's right.
A prize for the quantum electrodynamics theory. Gravity is not a force of nature. It emerges from space-time phenomenon, the space-time manifold or the continuum, or however you want to describe it. And it's a coupling constant measures the strength of the interaction force between particles. The coupling constant in general relativity is the universal gravitational constant times 8 pi divided by the speed of light to the 4th power. You know what the units of that are? 1 over force. 1 over newtons.
That's right.
And that's a coupling constant to convert the dimensional units of the stress energy tensor, which is the source of space-time curvature. That's in units of joules per cubic meter, or energy density, or pressure, because an equivalent is newtons per square meter.
So basically, this is Eric Davis right now. Or maybe that's just me reacting to Eric Davis right now. Okay, so basically Eric Davis is saying gravity is a pressure force, idiots. Gravity is a pressure force. It was always a pressure force, and I don't know how people didn't figure it out. So all we have to do is create this pressure force and we can create gravity. So what is anti-gravity? Why do I always joke about anti-gravity? Because anti-gravity is just a pressure force. So anti-gravity is just any pressure force that goes in the opposite direction of gravity. That's why anti-gravity, the term anti-gravity, is stupid. So yes, beetles are anti-gravity devices because they're just creating a pressure that causes them to float and levitate. It's not that hard. It's not magic. It's not fucking magic. It's just a pressure force. And why is there a pressure force? Because of the relative 0-point energy in the region of space-time. The region of space-time we are in right now is next to a big ball of Earth and empty space. And we are on the middle of it, on the surface of that planet, of that Earth. Okay. Okay, guys, I think that's going to be it for tonight. Actually, let me see if I've got one more for you guys. Let me see. Okay, should we do one tap ZPE? Oh wait, let's do one more. Teleportation.
The whole idea of wormholes, where you can open up a time-space and
what about
slip
wormholes?
into another part of the universe.
Right.
That's a possibility.
Yeah, general relativity, if the equations are right, that's a possibility.
How does that actually work? I mean, how can you actually, what do you need to do that, to open a wormhole in basic layman understanding?
A lot of
you
energy.
need a lot of energy.
Yeah.
That's one thing you need.
Jinx, Hal Puthoff.
You need to structure it in a certain way so as to affect the vacuum.
Like, how much can I say here?
You know, we can write the equations for it, see how it is. It's a little hard to describe physically. I mean, actually, we don't really know how to actually go out and do it physically, because there are few little things like, well, I'm going to need some negative energy here. Where am I going to get some negative energy?
Negative energy.
In some sense, the Casmir effect is actually considered a negative energy thing. So
it is.
Okay,
Casmir
maybe I want to
effect, negative energy.
Casmir walls around my
Casmir walls.
And so we see the mathematics of it.
So if you figure out how to turn the plasma use a Casmir effect in the plasma, then when you say you need a Casmir wall, now what you need is a plasma wall. Plasma wall? Ring any bells, chat? Yeah, Dark Ashton's back, bitches.
Predict that if general relativity is right, I mean, this is enough to make some people say, general relativity must be wrong if it predicts that. Mm-hmm. And there are some other models that, you know, more or less match general relativistic predictions, but don't have that effect in them. So actually, at some level, it's still sort of controversial where you could do it, but the way the math in general relativity, Einsteinian general relativity is now, it predicts you could do it, but it would just take enormous amounts of energy.
Well, good frickin' news. We've got enormous amounts of energy to be had. We've got exponential growth of energy. We've got access to free energy. We got energy coming out of our ass. We got electrical energy, heat energy, any kind of energy you need. You know what? We can make balls of plasma, so energy ain't a problem anymore. So where are the warp drives and wormholes? Oh, turns out we're using them to teleport civilian airliners because, well, people who have got this shit are sick in the head and they're doing evil ass stuff. So at least they can do is give us some of this technology so that we can, you know, enjoy it, live lives like normal cattle, but, you know, with free energy and Star Trek replicators and stuff like that. Also, you know, don't be evil. Don't be evil. Hopefully that just goes without saying. Don't be evil. Okay, guys. MH370X, I love you. Have a great night, guys. I will talk to you on Friday. Peace out, everyone. Later.
Out in the fields where the skies are wide, talking about a journey through the cosmic ride. Einstein and Thorne, they set the stage for a trip through time across the space age. Wormholes connect distant points in space, traversable paths to a far-off place. No black holes pull, no crushing weight, just a cosmic tunnel to a distant gate. Talking wormholes, stargates, negative energy, travel through the cosmos, it's our destiny. MH370, where did it go? Bowling 777 through a wormhole flow. We're talking wormholes, stargates, negative energy, travel through the cosmos, it's our destiny. MH370, where did it go? Bowling 777 through a wormhole flow. Exotic matter, negative energy's the key to stabilize the wormhole for you and me. Quantum vacuum squeezed so tight, creating conditions for this wondrous flight. Static fields and lasers in the lab they play, generating forces in a new kind of way. Gravitational squeezing, Casmir's force, negative zones we need to stay the course.
Talking wormholes, stargates, negative energy. Travel through the cosmos, it's our destiny. MH370, where did it go? Boeing 777 through a wormhole flow.
Thin shell formalism plate so fine. Spherical geometry we realign. Energy conditions that we must defy. For a stable wormhole, let's give it a try. Forces balancing the plate, creating the throat, open the gates, from Earth to the stars in a single bound, a shortcut through space profound. Engineers and dreamers hold the key to future worlds and what we could be. With science in hand, we forge ahead through the cosmic paths that we now tread.
Talking wormholes, stargates, negative energy. Travel through the cosmos, it's our destiny. MH370, where did it go? Boeing 777 through a wormhole flow.
From the fields to the stars, we break the chains. Understanding the universe, we make the gains. Lil Hula Crunk shines, bringing truth to light. Through his music, we'll explore the night. With wormholes and stargates, our path is clear. Exploring the cosmos, our future's here.
Hey, let me address a couple of quick questions. And I've never done one of these before, but I did get the $50 donation right at the end. Anything new on Edward Lynn? No, there is nothing new on Edward Lynn at the moment. It's clear he does not plan to come out. I already had speculated that he was not planning to come out. Basically, what we got was confirmation. The fact that he was changing his name, not suing me, was huge. If there was anything new, I would let you guys know. And I do hope that he does change his mind and decide to come out. But we can only do so much. And we're in this for the long game. So we can pretty much wait it out. And the pressure's on him to speak up. And it's going to continue to rise. So thank you very much, Cortez, for that donation. I appreciate it. And one last thing I did want to point out is, yes, I do think that free energy could be the dark side of the Fermi paradox. Why don't we see other civilizations out there? Because they destroy themselves. Think about it. Have a great night, everybody. Love you all. Peace, everybody.